We are just going to start all of our shows laughing. I've got the itchiest nose. And I was just telling Justin, it's a little embarrassing because it kind of looks like I'm on drugs. But I've not taken drugs, I want to say ever because my mom watches. But for like decades, for a long time. So excuse me and the itch. Welcome back to Benevolent Banter. My name is Cassie Roma, and I'm here today with another of my favorite humans on the planet. And Justin, one of the things I like to do with the folks who come on the podcast is have them introduce themselves because I find it fascinating on how we label ourselves.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I'm sure we're going to have a hell of a lot of awesome banter today. So yeah, my name's Justin Flitter. I am a Chief Marketing Officer, and for a long time I've worked in the software as a service and professional services space, helping New Zealand companies grow across New Zealand, Australia, US, Canada, and into India. So it's kind of my thing. I love the kind of SaaS and professional services space, and I love working with tech companies and building that ecosystem in New Zealand, and I love putting on events as well with AI Day that we've done for a couple of years. So kind of marketing and events, and strategy. I
love that you just said SaaS.
SaaS has been, that's kind of my buzz.
I just pictured that emoji of the lady in the red dress with the like real sass, but I know you're talking about the SaaS, not SAS. So I wanted you all to know, when I was thinking about questions to ask Justin, one of the things that has never happened for us is to follow any kind of plan. So
our conversations are a bit like this, which is kind of a metaphor for life. Really,
yeah, exactly. What did you just say? What was the quote you just told me?
If it is to be, it's up to me.
I love that. He's going to throw out all of these amazing one-liners, and every time you say that, I'm like, did you write that? Oh my God.
What was the one from yesterday?
Oh my God, the one from yesterday, I have it here. I had a really long-winded idea about what we were going to talk about today. And Justin basically came back with, oh yes, well today is the end result of everything I have done and learned before. And I went, yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly it. But a few of the words that when I was out for a walk this morning and I was thinking about you, not in a weird, creepy way.
Where'd you go for a walk?
I went for a 14K walk around the North Shore, around Birkenhead in Northcote. Nice. It was amazing.
Very nice this morning.
It was stunning. But when I was thinking about you in the not creepy way, because sometimes we won't go there. Yeah. I thought of 9 words. So connection, social media, TEDx, corporate life, leadership, second chances, curiosity, technology, and balance. So I don't know. I feel like we've known each other for almost a decade now. Do any of those words resonate?
Oh, they all resonate. Absolutely.
With you? I would love to know more about your personal story. So CMO, tech, digital, growth marketing, growing businesses, all of those things that you do professionally. But tell us about like you. What were you like as a kid, and what led you to be seated here today?
So I grew up in Wellington. We looked out over the zoo in Wellington, so from Melrose, so we could hear the lions roaring during the day. And back in those days, this is back in the 80s, when Athletic Park was still a thing, we could open up all the bay windows and listen to all the amazing concerts. So we had lots of barbecues and friends round and parties and things like that. So from Wellington, went to a really small school called Houghton Valley. Mm-hmm. Massive fields, blackberry bushes and catch and kiss and all that kind of fun stuff.
What's a catch and kiss? Is this a cultural thing I'm not aware of?
You didn't play that game?
No. Is that like marriage?
It's like tag with a kiss.
There are so many culture. Okay.
Oh my God.
We are equal opportunity people.
Yeah. So I went to St. Pat's Town. So Catholic school, was one of 40 non-Catholic boys that year.
Wow.
Played a lot of cricket.
I can see that.
I'm a cricket tragic.
I can see that. Yeah.
I'll check the score. We're doing all right today.
Oh, that's right. They're playing.
Played badminton a lot. So,
Badminton.
yeah.
You got a thing for the shuttlecock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I didn't sleep a lot last night. Sorry.
So yeah, lots of sports, and then as I was going through high school, really didn't particularly enjoy the format of high school. Wasn't really having a great deal of fun.
Yeah.
Worked hard to get grades to be able to get university entrance back when that was still a thing. So I got a 1 for English, which probably led down a path for some of my career. Got into university. It was Wellington Polytechnic at that point, which had just been bought by Massey University.
Oh, wow.
And I did a Bachelor of Business Information, major in marketing comms, and always had a kind of interest in being a business owner and being an entrepreneur and being creative and doing things kind of differently. And when I came out of university, I was looking for the Tuesday night pizzas and beers thing going on, and it just didn't really exist back then. And this is 1999.
Yep. That was a good year.
It was a great year.
That was a great year.
And the millennium happened, and I was a juggler. I had spent years and years and years juggling in my bedroom. I was doing street shows on Cuba Street. I was working at the local juggling shop.
There was a juggling shop?
There was a juggling shop. It was called More Balls Than Most.
Sorry.
So I was there. And I had an absolute blast. And so I would wag school and go to the juggling shop. And Kim Potter, hey Kim, he was one of my mentors who is still performing and doing shows around the world. And so he taught me Diablo, and he taught me juggling fire clubs and passing clubs and doing all sorts of crazy things. So I travelled around that summer doing wine and food festivals. I was on stage at the Millennial Show New Year's Eve in Palmerston North on the main stage on TV1 doing my routine. And went around, did a whole lot of festivals and shows, and had a great time. And I said, so I was looking for that kind of after five pizzas and beers thing, and it didn't really exist. And so I started doing a whole lot of research around kind of business networks, and discovered in the States this idea around business incubators and creating communities around entrepreneurial people to help them accelerate and help them grow. And I had this kind of idea, and it was very much like a cafe with some computers and some community centered around it. But I had no idea about how to go and do any of this. So I went to every after five business function that I could see around Wellington until I met the 5 amazing people that would form a board of trustees, and we set up the NRG Charitable Trust.
Wow.
And we got $200,000 worth of funding through Te Puna Kōkiri and Wellington City Council. And this was very much at the time when Andy Hamilton, the amazing Andy Hamilton, was setting up the Ice House here in Auckland. And so we had his leadership, and he's just left the Ice House, and he's just had an amazing couple of decades growing this immense ecosystem in New Zealand. So we set up Energy Trust, and we were on the top floor in the Wellington railway station, which used to be the creche, but it had no lift. So the creche, you had to literally walk your stroller up 2 flights of stairs to get to the creche.
The plight of womanhood. Oh, we could talk.
So we had this amazing space on the top floor of the Wellington railway station for a couple of years, and had a couple of dozen companies been tenanted in the space. So very much like one of the first sort of shared offices and first business incubators that were run in New Zealand. And I got the itch to go and start my own thing, and so it formed into the Wellington Incubator Network. And then, of course, we had Mark Blumsky, who was the ex-mayor in Wellington, setting up Creative HQ, which is still going. And so that whole ecosystem just really started blowing up, which is just so exciting. Yeah.
Well, how did you get then? Because my frame of reference for you has always been Auckland.
Yeah.
So what was the jump from Wellington to Auckland then?
So I was I got a job at Student Job Search at the Victoria University branch, and after being at the trust, tried to create something, didn't really have enough kind of funding and money and all that kind of stuff to go. So I went back and was like, okay, time to go and get a job before I become unemployable, and just this random thing. So I was at Student Job Search, running a lot of their national workflow, had a team of 20 in there, and I just loved the customer service aspect of it, and that was a big theme at university for me. And my partner at the time we're a bit sick of Wellington. We'd kind of done a dash there. We wanted to go and do something different. Yeah. So she found a job in Auckland, and a couple of months later, I followed with a job at Fish Pond, managing their customer service team, an online bookstore with Daniel Robinson, and I met some people there, some colleagues there who I'm still very great friends with. I was living in Ellerslie, and so I had this 90-minute. 2-bus ride, 90-minute ride to get all the way out to Wiri, down by the airport to go to it. And that job was 2008, and November the GFC hit, and half the team got made redundant, including myself. Yeah. So I'm sitting in, at that point, an apartment on K Road. I love the places that you can pinpoint in your life where you've lived. Like I've lived on Cuba Street, I've lived in Oriental Braid, live on K Road, and so there's some key cool moments those different places. But was sitting in the apartment on K Road, going, what on earth am I going to do next? And I remembered a lesson someone had taught me many years ago, and it was like write down the 10 companies that you would love to work for. And write down why you would like to work for them, and then go and hit them up.
Amazing.
And I had this company called Zendesk at the top of my list because at Fish Pond, we'd trialed their software. Zendesk is a customer service, customer engagement platform. And so I did some research. I'd signed up to LinkedIn. I got my profile all done.
LinkedIn.
And this is November, early December 2008. And I found someone on LinkedIn from Zendesk, Michael, who was in Hong Kong at the time, and I messaged him on LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, this is what I've done. Really excited, really interested about the company. Is there anything I can do for you? Yeah. And 5 minutes later, he messaged me back. Here's my Skype username. Call me. 90 minutes later, we just had our own Benevolent chats, and we're ranting about everything that was going on. I learned that this company had about 1,000 customers. We're still very much run out of the founder owner's office in Denmark. And he was like, these are the things that are going on. Come back with a proposal and how much you want to get paid, and let's figure it out. Cool. A couple of weeks later, we'd gone through this interview process and figuring out the projects. And so for that summer, I wrote a lot of the customer support documentation for their users. Wow. And by the end of it, the product had changed so much that it needed to be kind of redone, but I became part of their customer service team, and we hired more and more people building that kind of follow the sun support structure. So I spent 3, perhaps 4 years kind of on and off with them and running their in their customer service team, and then business development in Asia, on APAC, and started all their social media accounts with them, and worked with a journalist that had hired over there, built that up, and then created the social media manager's role. And this is probably 2010, I'm going to say. Yeah. And I'd come back, been to San Francisco a couple of times, and I'd been over there, and I'd been to a social media club.
Oh, the social
The
media
social
club.
media club. I'd been, and I came back to Auckland, and I'm like, we need a social media club.
Yep, I remember this time.
So we started Smackle, as it was affectionately known by the end of it. We started Social Media Club Auckland, and great people like Vaughan Davis were involved. And the first event was with Jason Bryant, who was running his wine shop.
Yeah.
And of course, Giapo. That was the first event. We're talking about Twitter and social media for retail.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And it grew from there, and it was an incredibly successful event. We had tweet ups.
I remember all of these things
So
because I think maybe a year in I started to
We had the Twitter Christmas party at I can't remember Sales Street back then. We had like 200 people turn up.
Yeah, it was amazing. For me as first of all, as somebody who'd come from overseas and was a new immigrant to this place, and then navigating motherhood and marriage and working full time, and also working because we worked very concurrently, and I was kind of like big corporate machine, and you were kind of in that more entrepreneurial side. But we've been kind of working in parallel for a decade and a half now. Yeah. But I can remember that time, and most of my best friends that exist now, I met through Twitter and those tweet ups and having chats about Smackle, at Smackle, doing those things. So the power that you put into connection and connectivity and looking people in the eye face to face, but also going, here's how we can use these platforms. I don't know if do you realize how like powerful and important that was? Did you know that at the time, or was it just like that pizza and beer you were? You know,
it was definitely the formative years of social media becoming a marketing channel and people thinking about it as a corporate comms and how do we engage with these different communities.
Yeah.
And I left Zendesk to start my own agency and work with brands and other agencies around Auckland, and did the social media analytics for the 2011 Rugby World Cup. And back then there were tools that you could use to record tweets.
Yeah.
And it might cost you, I think it was costing me like $10, maybe $20 a day to download 5% of all the tweets in New Zealand. And so you'd have a spreadsheet like 90,000 lines long, trying to do some rudimentary analytics around what was going on.
Create a little pivot chart on the next page and pull your hair out while you try.
And so that was kind of my first foray in doing some data analytics work, and math was never my strongest point, so Excel was my best friend. And it was really interesting. And so you could actually geotag around Eden Park and only get the tweets coming out of Eden Park. So when Daniel Carter had the groin strain, imagine the volume of messages that were coming up, and you could really see this chart of things just bouncing around all over the place in terms of that activity. So it was incredibly interesting time, and it was worked on some really interesting companies and some really interesting projects, and I think trying to solve all of those unique problems and those unique how do we engage with this particular type of audience as a marketer was something that I've always really enjoyed. It's really challenged me to think, okay, this is my trade and this is what I'm good at, but how do I apply that into this different situation? Is it, for Isaac Cider, is it how are we doing it for this? For Max Beer, how are we doing it for that? What are the nuances with those different audiences, and what are they like, and how do we communicate with them? What's the flavor of conversation?
I'm going to cough. I feel like a piece of like Horton Hears a Who. Little guy just flew into my... This is not my sexy voice. I'm with you on that one. Because I remember those days. And when you start as, I think, a traditional marketer, and you're honing your skills, and you're taught certain, I guess, points of knowledge that you say truths, right? This is your marketing truth. And then you start to look at new tools, your Twitter, your Facebook, all of this was like way pre-Instagram, right? I remember thinking back to then like, oh, fuck, I am in the completely wrong game. because when you started to look at, and I could just see in my head when you talked about the geotagging of the tweets around Eden Park. I remember thinking, gathering data like that, because I think I was at either ANZ or Mercury at the time, because I had similar kind of data around cultural revolutionary moments. And I thought, geez, this is fantastic. And nobody is fucking with it yet. We're not trying to disrupt people. We're not trying to interrupt. How do we take those moments?
They were applying a traditional
Yes.
ideology to an emerging communication channel.
Yeah.
And the two didn't smash together.
And I still feel like we're doing that in a lot of big businesses. I feel like there's still this grasping onto the traditional ideology and the dogma that's like reach and clicks and all of these things. Like, cool, those things are great, but the stuff that's going to make the spike is that cultural side of things. It's the human, it's the emotional. How do we break old marketing and apply some of the tried and true to new?
Those were the days of the early days of community building and thinking about your tribes.
Oh God, I loved so old. Oh my God, those days were my favorite. But you can see that like Facebook's pivoting back to groups now.
Well, the interest graph, right?
Yeah.
So I've been reading this book called We're All the Same Age Now.
Ooh,
right?
I like that title.
It's a piece of research which destroys the whole demographic marketing framework. Mm-hmm. And if just as I guess a simple analogy, if you're trying to sell knitting wool, then you might think, oh, knitting is for 50 plus women.
Grandmas, yep.
Grandmas. And so you target your ads based on this demographic profile of who you think those buyers are.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, you've now got Gen Xers and millennials who are knitting and being creative and doing things with knitting wool. And so it's actually about harnessing that interest and the mindset that people are in.
It's like the makers movement, right? So when you talk about the wool, it's like my brain went straight to, oh my God, there's a young girl who works with us at the warehouse group named Gabby, and I saw her in doing all kinds of different needlework the other day, and I'm like, girl, you're not even 30 yet. But you're right. So we've become so focused in our advertising that we forget to see the bigger picture.
So one of the things I've tried to apply in some of the strategy that I've done over the last few years is really getting my understanding, where are people's heads at? Nice. Where's your mind at when you search for solution A, B, or C? Yeah. What's happening to you at work? What's going on? What's the problem that you're trying to come up with? Who is promoting that idea? Is it an idea that you're coming up with, that you're identifying, or is someone at a C-suite level sharing that down and going, we've got a problem, go and solve it, or figure it out? And so where is that kind of pincer approach that you can apply with digital and content to try and come in and meet in the middle?
That's the magic, right? Yeah. That's the stuff that I love, is that looking at understanding humanity, understanding emotion, and then understanding that we are not rational. We post-rationalize like kings and queens. But if we're not rational, what is that pincer approach? How do we get stories and content and inspiration and aspiration? And how do we build that context through data? Which is what you do.
Machines can't do it.
How do we do it then? We're using machines?
Yeah, but machines don't have the ability to contextualize and be intuitive. That's right. They can provide you trends and data and predictions, but they're not going to turn that into a story.
This is why I like Justin. He's good at this. Are you saying that just to be like a little sweet talker? Yeah. Speaking of the technology and stuff, you were quite the name in social media for a long time, and you've stepped big time now into data and all of that kind of stuff, which I guess is applicable still to social. But when you talk data and you talk about as a CMO, how do you maintain that heart? How do you maintain the aspect of humanity that's necessary? Do you have your eyes over everything that goes out? Do you make sure that whatever goes out, you've been able to double check? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, certainly for the companies I'm working with at the moment, there is never one pair of eyes. Good. There is always 3, 4 who are reviewing content. One of the key lessons for me that I've picked up around especially B2B is brand, and
Yeah.
the way to build brand in B2B is consistency, and consistency is not perfect somewhere. It is good enough everywhere.
Yep.
And so while it might not be immaculate, we want it to be good enough, and we want it to be consistent. And
Yes.
so the consistent is consistent around our storytelling and the language and how we engage people. Consistency around the design, so that when people
visual.
see it on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
their brain instantly connects that layout and that design to you.
Yeah.
And that helps people digest that content and read it faster than if that's a new piece and you've got to cache that
That's right.
content in your brain again.
If
You
it's
know?
consistent,
If
you've already got that.
You've already cached it.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just reading what's new.
That's right. That's right.
And
You've
so
already
that-
got the shortcut, right? Our brains are so amazing at shortcuts. So if you've already got that and continue to feed that, then you're in the right place.
Yeah. So that's a really good stuff. So that's something that it's a never ending. This job's never finished, right? It's just
It's
a
great.
constant evolution and improvement and tweaking and
Correct.
understanding the data that you have. What data what would you like? What are you trying to, and it always goes back to the problem that you're trying to solve.
That's right.
And the problem you're trying to solve is always tied back to a person, a human, a customer. What are they trying to
That's right.
achieve? What are
That's
they
right.
trying to do? Where's their head at?
Where's the value, right? From your brand to them. And it doesn't have to mean that kind of value, but that consistent touch point of value. That's really, really interesting.
So we went to the social media club.
Yes. I was wanting to go
And,
back to that. Yes.
We went from social media club. What happened after social media club?
How long did that go on for? 3 or 4 years? Was it that long?
5 years. So
5 years.
I didn't
Wow.
run it. I wasn't running it the whole time.
Yeah.
There was an amazing group of people who were on the committee and helping out with all of that, and so they continued, and I went away to go and do some other things and go and work on different companies. And kind of build some agency and do my freelancing stuff and work with the city council on social media strategies and do all that kind of thing. And I had a job with a company called results.com, which was a kind of business productivity strategy platform utilizing data. And one of their sister company was building an AI product in the UK.
Cool.
And so it kind of pinged my interest, kind of always interested in emerging tech, really. And if you think about that kind of social and digital and artificial intelligence, and really trying to understand how is that emerging tech going to impact our world and change the way that humans operate.
Yeah.
And so that kind of piqued my interest as a marketer. What do I need to know about AI? How can I leverage it? What are the tools out there that might help me get closer to the customer, automate some of those manual processes that we love to hate doing all the time?
Do you want to explain really quickly what AI is, just in case anybody...
Well, you're going to ask me to explain artificial intelligence. So
I think you asked me this once on camera, so your turn.
So AI, artificial intelligence, is a research tool, really. If you look back to the 1950s, they were looking to see whether they could replicate a human interaction with a machine. And so today we kind of look at machine learning, so an algorithm that can suck in a whole lot of data and keep optimizing and improving over time. So it's kind of learning as it's going. And so you can start looking at some prediction engines around what's going to happen in the future. We've got aspects of AI like computer vision, so making computers see, which might be a security camera or a car, or having a camera on the back of your flatbed truck so that you can monitor people onloading or offloading steel and framework to make sure they're managing health and safety requirements.
Nice. Yep.
You've got natural language processing, so chatbots,
Yep.
Alexa, Siri, There's a great tool that I'm using at the moment called Otter, which is voice to text in real-time transcriptions for your meetings and that sort of thing. And it's brilliant. It works so well.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's amazing.
The technology leaps that we've seen over the last few years are incredible. You've got robotic process automation. So thinking about, in legal companies, how we're reading documents, how can we understand what the differences are between two particular documents? Has there been a change in a compliance clause? There's all sorts of different kind of applications around that. In film and TV, they've been using image recognition and machine learning to slice and dice, to fill in the gaps, to fill in edges of image and replicate different stuff. Right, so the connotations are huge. We generally look at AI as augmenting humans. So in some industries, artificial intelligence will wipe out jobs. There'll be swathes of jobs which will go. But that's not going to leave us in a world where we've got low unemployment rate or high unemployment rate and everyone walking around going, don't know what to do with ourselves anymore. Humanity has always had revolutions of technology, and we've always had more and more and more to do. It's not it's actually made life really that any easier for us. We've always been as busy as we always are.
We're busier
There's
than
just
ever.
more different things to do.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be this shift in terms of workforce and tasks, and looking to those aspects of your life or your work that are repeatable processes that perhaps we can automate, or perhaps we can use some robotics to do that. And whether that's looking at Unique or with their digital humans, and I'd love to have a digital Jody. I'd love to have digital Jay running around in the background, paying my bills and setting up appointments and doing all that sort of stuff for me. It would be great.
Yeah, same. Two. Let's order two. Yeah.
So there's some, and a lot of this, when you look at Soul Machines or Unique, there's some incredible AI-powered technology that's been designed and built in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so that interest in AI led me to start a meetup.
Yep, I remember
like we did with Social Media Club, and we started a meetup called the AI Show. And we had about 60, 70 people at our first event at a pretty dark bar in Britomart.
Amazing, yeah.
And the wonderful Shannon Thomas was there, who was at IBM at that point. And she came up to me, she's like, this is really cool, we'll host the next one.
Nice.
So then it became a thing.
Yeah.
And we ran a series of events just after 5, networking,
They were
some
fun.
speakers.
They were fun.
And we ran that for about 18 months, and we had a lot of great, company sponsorship and corporate support, and amazing, basically surfacing people working in companies who are doing stuff with AI, so that we can get them to tell the story around what was the business problem that you were trying to solve.
Yep.
How did you apply some AI methodology to solve that particular problem? And what's been the business impact, or what do you perceive the business impact to be down the track? And so we met, some amazing companies like Halter with the neck braces, next things go around the cows, which can monitor their health and well-being.
Wow.
And so I started to think, well, what's next? And this community was really growing around AI and emerging tech. So I started to think about, well, let's put on a conference. And I've been working with Elliot Blade, who runs TEDx Auckland.
Shout out, Elliot.
For a long time, since 2012. So I had some experience kind of producing and putting big events together.
Yeah.
And so I discovered NZ Tech and the AI Forum. And so I connected up with Ben Reed at the time from the forum and said, and they'd been coming to some of the monthly events. And so we created a partnership together to co-produce AI Day. We ran that for a couple of years at the amazing Waterfront Theatre down Wynyard Quarter.
Yeah.
And had 500 people each year coming to this conference and bringing in amazing international speakers, so that New Zealand's kind of AI tech community could, I guess, uncover what are the possibilities. So what's being done around the world, and talk about some of the issues around designing for AI, some of the ethics and some of the challenges.
Stuff. Oh my gosh. After AI Day, because I attended AI Day, and was really lucky, thank you, to MC it as well. But to have some of the conversations that went on, because if you're like a 1 to 10, 10 being like all knowing on AI and 1 being, bottom, I was probably like a 3 before that and started to dive into it. Holy cow, some of the conversations that happened on those days, I felt like they transcended tech, they transcended work, and they went to the depth of humanity and culture. I've said this quite a few times, like I've been to so many conferences, but that fundamentally changed the way I walked through the world at work.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So I don't know if I've ever told you that, but it was one of those days where you just went, holy shit, you couldn't get more impactful conversations in the same room in a day. And I think everybody left that room that day buzzed,
So that was just over a year ago, and it's some context. So we had Sean Gawley, who runs Primer, and Sean's a Kiwi he's from Christchurch, and he is one of the greatest minds in natural language processing and machine learning in the world. And he runs a company called Primer in the States, and works with a lot of the 3-letter agencies over there on solving some big problems. And we'd been trying to get him down for the first event, and so he came and spoke, and he was the closing keynote.
He was amazing.
And he makes your wheels spin. He just mind boggles when you're speaking to him. And we had to change the program for that event because unfortunately we had the situation in Christchurch. That really had a massive influence on the discussion.
That was a week before, wasn't it?
It was a couple of weeks before. And so we're thinking about the use of social media and how we can prevent, I guess, stories like this getting out or being disseminated. And so there was a lot of debate around should Twitter, should Facebook be able to stop content like this being distributed. And so we had a pinch myself moment where we had Sean and Russell Brown was curating the panel, and so I can't remember everyone's names who were on the panel, but we had this enthralling
Cassie Rummer was on that panel.
You were on the panel.
Watching everybody like this.
Enthralling discussion around how algorithms work and the ethical and social implications of that discussion.
But instead of it being like algorithms up here as something maybe normal humanity wouldn't understand, what Sean did was he was able to bring it back into like, this is why it matters to your children. This is why it matters to New Zealand. This is why it matters to you as a human being, and to bring everything back to morals, safety, ethics, and then also the beauty of and the fallibility of the tech itself. Just mind-boggling. There was a mic drop moment. I can't remember the line he said. I'm not even going to pretend to say it because it was just beautiful. And I remember Russell just going, that's it. We are ending right there because you cannot.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that video now.
Yeah,
watch that panel
it was
again.
superb. Yeah.
So there's some, so I guess some really proud moments for me in terms of some of the events and some of the people we've been able to stand up on stage and hopefully some of the kind of contribution to accelerating innovation and creativity with emerging tech around New Zealand.
What drives you to do these events? Because I mean, I've known you
I'm interested and I want to learn too. I'm curious.
Curiosity.
I want to figure it out. I want to watch all these videos, and I'm reading all the time, and I have a stack of books which I probably will never get around to reading because trying to find a couple of hours where I can actually concentrate on reading a book just doesn't happen for me. But I'm on Medium for at least half an hour, if not an hour a day, just sifting through, and a lot of it's rubbish. But there are some amazing people that are writing on Medium with some very technical, some great examples of what's going on, and some very some really key thought leadership pieces around how this stuff is impacting the world, and sharing a lot of research. And it's so I'm absorbing all the time, and certainly, like, even though at the moment running as CMO across both of Carmen's businesses, but I make a point of every week trying to meet with 2 or 3 people just for a beer after work, and pick their brains and find out what's happening in their world and share. And it helps me to kind of articulate some of my ideas and string different ideas together and go, I read that there and I watched that there, and this is the impact that it's having on this particular industry, and that's a real light bulb moment, and write it down and
save it. It's the give, right? It's the give back to other people. So that it's that continual circle of fulfillment, I guess. Because I feel very similar to you, which is probably why we get along, is that the more people you put into a room with diverse backgrounds and ways of thinking, and just, oh my God, the expertise of some human beings, I just go, oh, other level stuff. When you bring all those people together, how hard is it not to be inspired, right? That inspiration piece. And is your hope then that people take that forward and apply it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hope that the AI Day videos and all those talks and panels will be on YouTube forever, and that people use them and reference them and go back to watch. The talks are timeless. We're always going to be challenged with understanding the ethical dilemmas and understanding, and by, well, maybe not always, but for the moment we are. We're challenged with these really, really difficult problems, and a lot of the legal structures is not set up to deal with them. And understanding what that is in terms of how we're curating our data sets, even. Yeah. And so, as you said, having people who are knowledgeable about law and ethics, and people who are building and writing code and building stuff, and business leaders who have got a problem to solve, and machine learning and AI design experts from around the world to come and explain how to engineer this stuff together. And all of a sudden you have this melting pot of genius in a room that people walk away and they form partnerships and they collaborate together and they work on things together. And you just get all these different solutions, coming out that are just great for humanity and great for the earth. And it's
I loved Te Aroha and the way that he tied AI and digital and technology back to Māori customs and listening to our ancestors in the world. Holy cow. What a way to start a nerdy digital day, right? I really thought that we were going to be deep in this nerd world and landscape, and every single person who spoke, again, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, on that day it was one of my favorites, because every person who spoke, sure, they knew a lot. They knew their shit about the functional aspects of what they do, but they cared. And that's what got me, was how much they cared about the people around them.
And it always doesn't matter, talking about data and technology, but it always comes back down to people.
100%.
Right? Always comes back to people. Right?
People. And then I also wanted to kind of move away from data and stuff for a minute, because you talked earlier about growing up, you were outdoors a lot. And I think you recently got married.
I did.
You did.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How do you fit time in your life when we, especially in the jobs that we do and the work that we do, is so tech focused? How do you find time to fit people and the outdoors into your life?
Well, I'd like to fit more outdoors in my life, and we're in such a privileged and lucky space in New Zealand to have accessibility to the great outdoors within pretty much a half an hour drive, even from Auckland, right? And you can go out into the Waitaks, you can go north, south, east, west, you can find some bush, a river, a waterfall. Yep. And Livy and I both, it's full on at work all day. So the best thing that we can do to go and reset ourselves and refresh our minds is to put the phone in the pocket or the backpack and go for a walk and just be present and aware of what's going on around you. Livy is an amazing photographer, so we have lots of moments where we pause to listen to a bird sing and take a photo of it, or we're looking at a landscape. And so that's something one of the reasons why I love it so much is because we creates those moments for us. And I grew up and Dad and I were going tramping with the Wanganui Tramping Club and going up Mount Ruapehu and lots and lots of walks around Wellington. And I guess there was maybe a 20-year gap between that time and reconnecting with that love.
Do you think it's a maturity thing or a life stage thing, or do you think more people are becoming aware of the fact that we need to pay more time and attention?
I also think it's kind of the community that you have around you.
Yeah.
So, I became friends and met a lot of people who that was what they loved to do. And I'm like, I like to do that. I haven't done it for ages, but
I'll come.
I'm keen, let's go. And so it's kind of people you meet, and it's sort of, connecting yourselves with the right people is really important. And there's certainly been periods of my time where I've connected myself with the wrong crowd, and that's, not been great for my mental health. And
we learn.
And so now I'm like, so it's great, and we went on this massive adventure. So we went away for 6 weeks, and not last year, the year before, 2018.
Yeah.
And we did a 6-week trip to Chile and Argentina.
Amazing.
And I'd never been over there to South America at all. But we did a 9-day hike around the Torres del Paine National Park in Patagonia.
It's amazing.
And it's like the South Island on steroids.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and contrasting, and you're walking up over the John Gardner Pass, and it's blowing a blizzard, and the cloud clears, and you've got this glacier, like as far as the eye can see, 20-30 kilometers up is this massive glacier, and it's just
Is it moments?
You just can't. There's nothing you can say about it. And you just for hours, you're just walking along this track, along this glacier, and you can see how it's been retreating, and the park had some massive fires, and so it's it's regrowing.
Yeah.
But it was it was 9 days. We carried everything. We tented.
Wow.
You can actually buy a beer at some of the huts, which is quite cool.
Yeah, I would be buying that beer.
So that was an amazing adventure, and we were at I'm not even going to remember the name of the place now. So the foothills of Mount Fitzroy.
Oh.
We went for a walk, a little day walk up to this lake in the foothills, and I was tired and grumpy and didn't want to go. I was quite happy to turn back and not interested. And the last kind of leg of this hike is a 750-meter stair climb, like just up. And I was looking at Livy going, I'm like, and she was like, no, get on with it. We're going. We're going to do it.
I like her.
She's like, we're here now.
Yep.
We're going to go and do it. And I'd been carrying this ring in my pocket for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'd been looking I had a couple of moments in my mind of when I might pop the question, and it didn't kind of happen on the Torres del Paine hike. And this was kind of getting to the end of our hike, our 3 weeks hiking. And so we got up to this frozen lake.
Wow.
And there was no one around. It was blowing a blizzard. It was cold as fuck. And we had this little bothy bag, which is basically like a little shelter that you tie in around, and you sit down and you kind of curl it underneath yourselves. And so we were sitting in this bothy bag, and I was like, all right, here we go.
This is interesting.
And so I proposed, and lucky enough, she said yes. And
tight quarters for a no, right?
It's a solemn walk back, and she says no. So we got married up at Mount Fitzroy, and then we were trying to figure out what we would do for our wedding, and one of the key things that Livy said to me was that she wanted to have our friends and family together for a weekend, not just a day, a night.
Smart.
and to share an experience together. And the opportunity came up to book the Pinnacles Hut in the Coromandel.
Cool. So cool.
And so we had the entire place in December, and 65 friends and family hiked up 3 hours uphill, 26 degrees, carrying everything in and out. So even Hunt for the Wilder people that went up there to shoot had to carry all of their gear in. There is a helipad, which we had the ceremony on, but everyone has to carry everything in and out, all the booze, all the food. So we hired 2 students from Student Job Search to carry 15 kg
to
be our Sherpas and carry everything up. And we had perfect weather, and it was an amazing experience. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That kind of connection must...
Savvy Pedersen came in from the States to come down.
Jiminy cricket.
She was wild. It's great fun.
It must give you a good view of when you're going through maybe hard times in an office, or, just trying to solve some kind of data-related question. Just give you that grounding for, I know what's important, and I know what life is about.
Yeah, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's a great book.
It is a great book. And I think once you go through the hard stuff...
I haven't read the whole book. I've read the first 3 chapters a dozen times. That's it.
That's all you need, really. And if you can just read the title and not give a fuck about stuff. That was one of the ladies on TED. I saw a TED Talk, and she was talking about the fuck it bucket, and you only have so many fucks to give.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna give your precious fucks away, don't give them to things that aren't actually precious. And I was like, I like that. I'm going to check our time.
Important lesson.
We are at time, but I'm going to finish this one. So we've known each other for a long time. And in the most recent past, I've started to really kind of hammer in my life and with my personal values and ethics, the importance of kindness. So obviously I love to have a good time. We love to have a beer and catch up and do the bro stuff that we do, because that's what bros do. But I would like for you to shout a kindness warrior in your life. So somebody who doesn't have to be, kindness warrior is somebody who maybe lifted you or picked you back up once you fell, or just is somebody there in your corner. Shout out a kindness warrior that you know.
So, this is a good question, isn't it? So, Hamish Coleman Ross was one of my best men at the wedding.
Yeah.
And we haven't always had the best relationship. It's been a little bit rocky. But whenever things have got difficult, we've always been able to meet and have a cry and talk about it, and it's kind of the essence of what a lifelong friend means to me. It's kind of the definition for me is that relationship. And I don't catch up with them as much as I would love to do, but every time I do spend some time with them, I feel energized and enthused by spending time with them. And he's an incredibly generous and loving guy, and he's one of a few guy, male friends in my life who I couldn't do without.
That's amazing. So Hamish,
love you, mate. Shout
out to the kindness warriors. So kindness warrior Justin Flitter. Justin, thank you so much for your time. Like I've said throughout the entire podcast, Justin's been a friend of mine for a long, long time, and I thank you for everything you've done to bring people together.
Oh, you're incredible, Casey.
Oh, thanks.
Love you heaps.
Love you heaps. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.